Michael Johnson stood in front of his bathroom mirror, adjusting a wig and donning a pair of thick-rimmed glasses. The transformation was surreal but necessary. He was no longer the CEO of a successful tech firm. He was David Carter, a recent college graduate with big dreams and little experience. Today marked the beginning of an ambitious experiment, one that would challenge his perception of his own company and its culture. Michael had grown increasingly disillusioned with how his employees treated one another. He had witnessed the contempt some showed for their peers in lower positions, particularly those who had worked hard yet were undervalued simply because they lacked connections or prestige. It was disheartening, to say the least. He often thought about how the corporate world had nestled itself in a cycle of favoritism and elitism, perpetuating an invisible hierarchy that dictated success. It was time to see this world through a different lens, he decided. As he slipped into a crisp white shirt and khaki pants, Michael couldn't shake off the sensation of anticipatory dread. He had built a reputation as a supportive and progressive leader, someone who championed equality and inclusivity. Yet, how could he claim to embody these ideals if he didn't fully understand the experiences of the employees at the bottom rung, the ones who brought life to the projects he oversaw? He remembered his mentor's words, spoken during his early years as a young entrepreneur. To lead well, you must first understand the struggles of those you lead. Those words echoed in his mind as he locked the bathroom door and took a deep breath. He was ready for this challenge, ready to gain insights that could transform not just himself, but the whole company. Arriving at the office for the first time as David, he felt a rush of anxiety muddled with excitement. The high-rise building loomed ahead, a modern structure filled with glass and steel, echoing the values of progress and innovation. As he pushed through the revolving doors, the buzz of the workplace struck him. It was alive with the hum of conversations, the dissonant clattering of keyboards, and the occasional burst of laughter. Yet, beneath that bustling surface lay a palpable undercurrent of tension. Employees hurried past him, eyes glued to screens, phones pressed to ears. He was nothing but a speck among them, and his heart raced with each step deeper into the fray. He made his way to the open-plan workspace, where rows of desks sprawled out. Finding the assigned desk with his name placard, he felt a mix of anticipation and fear. As he settled in, Michael observed his colleagues. They were young, ambitious, and seemingly eager to make their mark. But every conversation he overheard left him unsettled. Just then, he caught the attention of a group discussing their weekend plans. Feeling emboldened, he approached them with a friendly smile. "Hey, I'm David. Just started here," he said, hoping to break the ice. To his surprise, the response was icy. One of the senior developers, Chloe, glanced at him and scoffed. "Oh, really? That's cute. If you're looking for meaningful work, you might want to keep your expectations low," she said dismissively before turning back to her conversation, as if he hadn't even spoken. Michael felt a wave of humiliation wash over him. He had always known that business dynamics could be harsh, but experiencing this level of disdain firsthand was a bitter pill to swallow. He quickly retreated to his desk, overwhelmed by the realization that his employees viewed each other through a lens tarnished by hierarchy and preconceived notions. Throughout the day, Michael encountered a barrage of similar incidents. When he joined the break room for lunch, he overheard jokes at the expense of an intern who had missed a deadline, jokes laced with ridicule and disdain instead of camaraderie. "Some people just shouldn't be in this business," one employee remarked, and laughter erupted in the small space. A deep sense of injustice settled in his gut. He noticed how effortlessly some of his more experienced colleagues seemed to command respect, while newer employees were treated like an afterthought. It was a stark reminder that meritocracy was often an illusion, obscured by safer connections, old boys' networks, and established reputation. By the time the first week concluded, Michael was grappling with a mix of anger and sorrow. Each experience unearthed something within him, a growing desire to fight against the entrenched patterns he had come to challenge. The corporate world, he realized, was not just divided by race or gender. It was fractured by class structures that stunted growth and fostered hostility. As he lay in bed that night, still wearing the nameless mask of David Carter, Michael contemplated his next steps. The only way forward was to dig deeper and understand the roots of the injustice he witnessed. He needed to learn the pain of the shipwrecked hopes around him, and perhaps, just maybe, he could steer his company toward a brighter future, one built on integrity and common respect rather than division. Tomorrow would be another day of discovery. He resolved as he closed his eyes, letting the weariness of the week wash over him like a tide. The road ahead would be challenging, but he would become the catalyst for change, starting from within. On his first day at the office as David Carter, Michael felt every nerve in his body buzzing with a mix of anxiety and determination. Clutching his coffee cup tightly, he made his way through the glossy lobby filled with polished marble and accents of glass. This place had been a fortress of his past success, but now it felt different, intimidating and stifling. He was no longer the leader. He was stepping into the shoes of an entry-level employee, one of many in a sprawling corporate machine that often crushed rather than uplifted. As he entered the expansive open-plan workspace, he was immediately struck by the contrast between the high-octane energy and the subtle undercurrent of disdain. Employees were glued to their screens, fingers flying over keyboards, but conversations carried a biting edge. He noticed hushed tones and blatant eye rolls whenever someone new approached a group. This was a different world. The same building, but an entirely different atmosphere. He positioned himself at his desk, which was tucked away in a corner near the restroom. Michael glanced over at the nearby workstations, observing his new colleagues. Some were deep in conversation, laughter trickling through the air, but it tended to be directed toward known friends rather than newcomers. A sense of exclusion prickled at him, and he suddenly felt the weight of the title entry level heavier than it ought to be, as if it came with an invisible badge of inferiority. Around mid-morning, he overheard a group of analysts deep in discussion about a new software that the company was set to roll out. Their excitement was palpable, and Michael felt a compelling urge to join. Gathering his courage, he approached them with a tentative smile. "Hey, I'm David. I just started and was wondering what you think about the new software. I heard it could change the way we operate." At first, he received polite nods, but Chloe, the same employee who had dismissed him earlier, grinned sarcastically. "David, sweetie, you have no idea what you're talking about. Why don't you sit back and observe before jumping into the deep end?" Her tone was patronizing, and Michael felt the heat rise in his cheeks. Once again, he retreated to his desk, stung by their condescension. The experience left a bitter taste in his mouth, a grim reminder that many employees operated under the belief that hierarchical status equated to worth. He quickly learned a lesson that speaking up could often lead to scorn rather than camaraderie. During lunch, Michael joined a small group that had gathered around the coffee machine. He thought perhaps being in a more casual setting would ease the tension, but as they chatted, it became clear they were more interested in gossiping about another colleague than building any social connections. "Did you hear Taylor tripped while making his presentation?" One woman laughed. "I mean, seriously, how you even manage that?" Another chimed in. "He's just not cut out for this job. Some people are better suited for the cleaning crew." They all erupted in laughter, and Michael felt the dark cloud of negativity envelop him. It was disheartening to witness people taking joy in the misfortunes of others, and he began to understand why many in the lower ranks felt stifled and disheartened. The day dragged on, each interaction leaving him more disillusioned. He sought out allies among his peers, but was met with disdainful glances and sarcastic remarks. Colleagues who introduced themselves often did so with an air of superiority, their backstories tinged with privilege. Michael couldn't help but feel as if he had been transported back to high school, a time when popularity dictated social hierarchies. But not all was bleak. Later in the afternoon, he encountered Lisa, a technician working at a desk nearby. Unlike the others, she greeted him warmly, her smile infectious. "Hey there, I'm Lisa. You're new, huh? How's your first day treating you?" "Full of surprises," he replied, attempting to hide his frustration. "How about you?" Lisa chuckled. Same old, same old. Just trying to make sense of this chaotic circus. You'll get used to it, or at least learn how to survive. Her genuine warmth put him at ease, and they struck up a conversation. He learned that she was incredibly knowledgeable and passionate about her work, having been with the company for nearly 5 years. Over sandwiches, Lisa shared her experiences navigating the intricate web of office politics. You know, it's not about what you know, it's about who you know. I've been passed over for promotions just because I don't have the right connections, she sighed, her brow furrowing. Every time I think I've got a shot, someone swoops in, usually someone less qualified but more favored. Michael listened intently, realizing that her talent was only a fraction of the qualifications that counted in this world. That's ridiculous. You deserve so much better, he replied, a surge of empathy pulsating through him. This conversation marked a crucial turning point for him. Lisa's insights echoed the discontent he had sensed throughout the day. As the workday drew to a close, Michael felt a mixture of hope and despair. He had met someone like Lisa who understood the struggles of the lower-tier workers, yet the overwhelming negativity of the office still loomed large. He realized that he had a long journey ahead of him, one that would require not just observation, but deeper engagement with his colleagues if he wanted to catalyze change. On his walk home, wearing the mask of David Carter, Michael reflected on his first day. He had expected to confront issues, but he hadn't anticipated the emotional toll it would take. His heart burned with a newfound determination to uncover the layers of prejudice and complacency that suffocated the very essence of the company. Tomorrow, he resolved, he would dig deeper into the office culture, armed with the knowledge that far too many felt marginalized. If he was to be a part of any meaningful change, he would have to expose the uncomfortable truths behind the curtains of corporate America. The fight for equity and respect was just beginning, and he was prepared to navigate the maze, one day at a time. The following morning, Michael awoke in a haze, the previous day's turmoil unsettling his thoughts. Despite the unease lingering in his heart, he felt an ember of determination igniting within him, a desire not just to survive within the corporate structure, but to provoke meaningful change. He adjusted the mask of David Carter to fit a little more comfortably. It no longer felt like a trap, but rather a tool, something he could wield in his pursuit of a more equitable work environment. As he prepared for the day, he reflected on his conversation with Lisa. She had offered not only insight, but also encouragement, a flicker of hope amidst the stifling atmosphere of negativity. He decided that today would be different. He would seek out more connections, engaging with his colleagues in a manner that transcended mere pleasantries. He wanted to understand their perspectives, their challenges, and their aspirations. Upon arriving at the office, the familiar buzz of activity hit him like a wave. Employees were swiftly moving, much like clockwork, anticipating the daily grind. Yet Michael was determined to disrupt the rhythm. Instead of lurking at his desk, he ventured into the communal spaces, determined to foster collaboration and camaraderie. He first approached a small group discussing a complex data analysis project. "Hey, I'm David," he introduced himself, maintaining an upbeat tone. "You all seem really engrossed. Mind if I ask what you're working on?" To his surprise, rather than the usual dismissive chuckles, he was met with genuine interest. "We're trying to figure out some projections for our upcoming product launch." "It's a bit of a puzzle," replied Mark, a data analyst who wore thick glasses and had a disheveled look about him, invoking the archetype of the overworked techie. Michael leaned in, intrigued. "Do you mind if I sit in? I'd love to learn more about your approach." He noticed the hesitance flickering across their faces, but Mark nodded, encouraging him to take a seat. As they discussed the intricacies of the data analysis, Michael found himself invigorated. The group welcomed him into the conversation, and he offered his own insights. His perspective as a former leader lent credibility to his contributions, and for a moment, he felt the camaraderie he had longed for. After an engaging hour filled with thoughtful exchanges and laughter, Michael felt a sense of accomplishment. It was an exhilarating contrast to the isolation he had experienced just the day before. It was then that he realized, Underneath the office's hardened exterior, there were stories craving to be told. Each colleague carried a piece of a much larger narrative, spanning their individual struggles and victories. Encouraged by this small success, Michael decided it was time to seek out Lisa again. He found her at the coffee machine, filling her mug with a fragrant brew. "Hey, Lisa," he called out, his voice bright with enthusiasm. "You have a moment? I'd love to chat." "Sure," she replied, her eyes lighting up. "You seem more energetic today. What's up?" After exchanging pleasantries about their mornings, Michael confessed, "I'm feeling more determined to engage with everyone, to hear the challenges and victories around us. I think I want to try and create a more inclusive environment. What do you think?" Lisa considered this, her brow furrowing thoughtfully. "I think that's amazing, but let me warn you, it'll be a climb. People have become so accustomed to their roles in this hierarchy that change can feel like a breath of fresh air or a gust of wind that knocks them off balance." Michael nodded, taking in her words. "I'm prepared for that. I want to rally the people who are disillusioned like us. If we can build a network, we could start creating more opportunities for collaboration. Promoting a sense of unity might even encourage the higher-ups to reconsider their approach." Her eyes sparkled with a mix of doubt and hope. "That sounds ambitious, but it's going to take time and effort to shift the ingrained culture here. If you truly want to make an impact, you'll have to be fully committed. You'll likely face skepticism and resistance from some of your colleagues, those who have benefited from the status quo." "Then I'll engage with them too," he exclaimed. "This has to be an all-inclusive effort. I'm tired of the infighting and negativity. Opportunities shouldn't be dictated by connections alone. They should be based on skills and aspirations." Over the next few weeks, Michael poured himself into understanding the nuances of his workplace. He scheduled informal gatherings, inviting colleagues for coffee and quick chats. Some were hesitant at first, but many began to warm up to him. He heard their frustrations, their dreams, and their everyday struggles. The more he listened, the more he could see the seeds of change taking root in their collective stories. He learned about Carla, a bright graphic designer who was often overlooked during meetings, despite her wealth of innovative ideas. Mike, a software developer with a talent for creative problem-solving, shared how his suggestions were regularly dismissed without consideration. Each conversation solidified Michael's resolve. These weren't just anecdotes. They were real, lived experiences that collectively painted a grim picture of the workplace culture that stifled talent and potential. Pumped up by the energy of these connections, he decided to take action. One evening after work, he gathered a small group of willing individuals, Lisa, Mark, Carla, Mike, and proposed that they create a weekly dialogue forum. "We can start to build a community of voices that will amplify each other's strengths and insights," he suggested, his heart racing at the prospects. "What if we called it Voices of Change?" Carla proposed, her eyes glimmering with excitement. "A platform where we share ideas, discuss challenges, and brainstorm solutions together. Let's take charge of our narratives." The group erupted in cheers of approval, and just like that, their initiative took off. They set a date and location for the first session in a local cafe, hoping to gather a diverse group of employees who felt similarly disengaged or unheard. In the following weeks, Michael witnessed an unexpected wave of support and enthusiasm from those he once thought would remain apathetic. People saw a glimmer of hope. They were eager to step out of the shadows and engage actively in discussing their perspectives. As attendance for the meetings grew, so did their momentum. Soon, Voices of Change became a talking point within the office. Employees who had previously passed each other without recognition began to acknowledge one another in the hallways, exchanging smiles and greetings. However, not everyone was pleased. Michael soon found himself in the crosshairs of resistance from higher-ups who felt threatened by this grassroots movement. Chloe and a few of her allies did their best to undermine Michael's efforts. "What is this nonsense? Who gave you the authority to lead discussions? You're new. You don't get to dictate how things are done around here," she sneered one afternoon, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Though her words stung, he masked his hurt with a calm resolve. "We're not trying to dictate anything, Chloe. We're merely trying to create a space where everyone can share and be heard. We want to foster growth, not disrupt it." But doubt began to creep in. Were they moving too fast? Were they challenging a system that was simply too entrenched to change? Michael often found himself alone at night, questioning whether he was opening doors or simply banging his head against a wall. In one particularly tense meeting, the atmosphere grew heavy when tensions flared, and an argument erupted between two colleagues over differing opinions on a project. Lisa had been sharing her perspective on improving the workflow, only to be shot down by a senior member of the team. The room pulsed with frustration, and Michael felt the weight of their expectations bearing down on him. In that effervescent moment, he was reminded of the purpose of Voices of Change. With a deep breath, he intervened, standing up. "This isn't helping any of us. We're all talented people. Let's channel this energy into constructive dialogue, rather than tearing each other down." The meeting took on a new focus. Heated debates transformed into something more constructive. There was a realization that they didn't have to agree on everything to work together toward a common goal. They could bridge their differences and communicate respectfully, instead of letting egos and frustrations blind them. As discussions matured, Michael witnessed profound changes. People actively contributed their insights, and hesitations morphed into expressions of solidarity. Slowly but surely, inhibitions began to ebb. The barriers that divided them began to break down, creating spaces for flourished creativity and collaboration. Through this process, Michael saw something beautiful emerge: authentic relationships cultivated in vulnerability and trust. Colleagues began rallying around renewed support for one another, sharing resources, and engaging in spontaneous brainstorming sessions. The seeds of change were sprouting into a garden of collaborative enterprises. But it wasn't without its challenges. Opposition from the upper echelons persisted, particularly from Chloe, who began covertly rallying allies to quell their movements. She whispered doubts in the ears of higher management, painting Michael and his initiatives as naive distractions. "The last thing we need is a group of amateurs undermining years of corporate traditions," she'd smirk, her venomous remarks echoing down office hallways. Faced with adversity, Michael felt both emboldened and frightened. At first, those chilly encounters rattled him, making him question if he was truly impacting their culture or merely creating ripples that would soon fade. However, the bond he forged with Lisa and others continually fueled his determination, reminding him that he was not pursuing this venture alone. In what felt like a pivotal moment, Michael knew he had a choice to make: to either shrink back or rise up and be the leader they all needed. The Voices of Change group transformed from mere dialogue into action. They began drafting proposals for more egalitarian hiring practices, mentorship programs, and initiatives aimed at supporting underrepresented voices within the company. With Lisa and the others by his side, he felt an electric surge of courage swell within him. He reached out to connect with employees across departments, making sure everyone knew they were invited to contribute their perspectives to the proposals. Each story they shared added depth and richness, and he found himself more alive than ever, energized by the prospect of sparking real shifts within the workplace. One week, as the group worked tirelessly on their proposals in preparation for a company-wide meeting, they decided to host a showcase of sorts, the Change Fair. It would be a way to present their ideas to a broader audience, not just as a formal proposal, but as a dynamic manifestation of their vision. They brainstormed creative ways to engage their co-workers, visual displays, presentations, and perhaps even interactive elements. As the date of the Change Fair approached, excitement mounted. It became a turning point, where Michael finally felt a sense of belonging within this previously alienating corporate landscape. Employees were pitching in enthusiastically, eagerly understanding that this wasn't just Michael's fight. It was theirs as well. And then came the day of the Change Fair, a carnival of ideas and energy, decorated with vibrant banners proclaiming their mission. The open conference room buzzed with anticipation. Colleagues filtered in curiously, intrigued by the colorful displays and the palpable enthusiasm in the air. The atmosphere was alive. It could have been mistaken for a festival, not just an office meeting. Employees mingled, sharing stories and visions, connecting as they discovered common ground in their aspirations. As Michael walked through the crowd, he marveled at how far they had come. He caught glimpses of colleagues actively engaging with each other, discussing the proposals, and considering ways to implement them. The electricity crackled. It felt like liberation from the confines of existing hierarchies. As the day unfolded, Michael took the stage to present their ideas. Standing before his peers, he felt a flood of nervous energy, but also a deep sense of purpose. With Lisa by his side, he spoke with passion about the importance of fostering collaboration and inclusivity. He articulated their vision, a workplace where every voice mattered, where creativity flourished, and where a sense of community bond replaced divisiveness. What unfolded next was striking. A diverse group of employees began to rise, sharing their own stories. Stories of feeling unheard, overlooked, and eager for a voice. They spoke from the heart, tearing down the invisible walls that had kept them isolated. Michael stood in awe, realizing the ripple effect of hope they had all sparked. Each narrative feeding into the momentum, each voice echoing an unwavering call for change. Some senior members hesitated, their usual stances faltering as they bore witness to the undeniable shift taking place. There was a sense that they were witnessing a tide turning, perhaps one that could not be ignored. And then came the moment that catalyzed everything. The crowd erupted into applause. Michael felt the energy surge through him, reaffirming that they were claiming their narrative. People were ready to advocate for change, to dismantle the barriers that had held them captive for far too long. In that singular moment, Michael felt the resonance of years of dreams mingling with the hope that had ignited within them all. As voices rose in cheers and camaraderie blanketed the room, he realized this wasn't just about him anymore. It was about the collective strength they had nurtured together, a movement to upend the oppressive structures of their workplace. The Change Fair marked a pivotal milestone, a potent symbol of a blossoming community, where each story counted and echoed, generating momentum toward a renewed corporate culture. And amid the momentum, Michael knew this was merely the beginning. Change wasn't a binary outcome. It was an ongoing journey, requiring persistence and unity. His heart brimmed with hope and determination as he stood amongst his colleagues, poised to embark on this shared adventure together, navigating the complexities of change. The mask of David Carter began to feel less like an adornment hiding his true self, and more like a platform for him to advocate for the very transformation he envisioned. As the day drew to a close, Michael caught a glimpse of Lisa in the crowd. Their eyes met, a mutual understanding passing between them. Beneath the weight of their respective struggles lay an unwavering belief that together, they could transform their workplace into something extraordinary. As Michael and his colleagues left the meeting, a mix of relief and renewed determination flowed through the group. The energy in the room had shifted significantly, transforming doubt into a palpable sense of purpose. "We did it," Carla exclaimed, her voice buoyant as they gathered in the hallway. "I can't believe how many people stepped up to share their stories. It felt like we were igniting a spark." Lisa chimed in, "Exactly. The way people responded shows there's a genuine desire for change. We can't stop here. We need to keep the momentum going." "Agreed," Michael said, a sense of responsibility weighing on him. He met the eyes of his colleagues, all filled with eagerness and hope. "Let's use this opportunity to rally more support. We need a strategic plan to present our proposals clearly to management. They need to know we're not just a group of disgruntled employees. We're committed to constructive change." As they brainstormed their next steps, Michael suggested organizing task forces focused on different areas they'd identified during their workshops: communication, team dynamics, and professional development. Each group could capitalize on the enthusiasm ignited in the meeting, and together they could consolidate their findings into a cohesive proposal. "Let's also create a central platform where people can share their thoughts and ideas," Lisa added. "We need to ensure everyone feels this is a collaborative effort and not just the work of a few." Over the next several days, the energy around the office surged. Employees who had initially been hesitant about voicing their opinions found themselves involved in dynamic discussions, picking up the momentum Michael and his allies had cultivated. Groups took shape, and individuals began to sign up for task forces, eager to contribute their insight toward a collective goal. As week turned into week, the conference room habitual gatherings transformed from simple brainstorming sessions into powerful incubators for ideas. Each group wielded a unique lens on workplace challenges, combining creativity with practical solutions. They exchanged feedback and debated approaches, prioritizing transparency and joy in their collaborative efforts. During one of the meetings, Michael stood in front of the communications task force as they reviewed their initial findings. He could feel the passion infuse into the room as Sarah, one of the quieter team members, took the lead. "I've been thinking about how we can improve our existing communication structures," Sarah began, her voice growing steadier with each word. "We already have platforms like email and instant messaging, but they often lead to miscommunication or mixed messages. What if we introduced regular check-in meetings? These could be brief, focused gatherings where teams clarify weekly goals and share updates." "I love that idea," Michael interjected, feeling a rush of excitement. "We could even implement a rotating role for team leaders, which could build engagement and ensure everyone has a chance to guide discussions." This sparked numerous ideas within the team, and soon the whiteboard was filled with suggestions, each more innovative than the last. They discussed the possibility of creating a staff newsletter that highlighted individual achievements, upcoming events, and opportunities for professional development. As each task force shared their concepts, the proposal began to take shape, not just as a plan for reforms, but as a full-fledged vision for a thriving workplace. Yet amidst the enthusiasm, an undercurrent of tension lingered. Chloe's presence remained, a looming question shadowing their every move. What would management's response be to their proposals? Would they embrace the change or dismiss it as a passing phase? Michael was aware of the whispers circulating throughout the office, and while the energy was positive, employees were also anxious about potential backlash. He sensed the need to address this uncertainty head-on in their next meeting, a recognition that collective courage was as essential as innovative proposals. Before they reconvened, he decided to reach out to Chloe directly. He found her in the break room, her expression unreadable as she poured herself a cup of coffee. "Hey, Chloe," he said, approaching her cautiously. "Can we talk for a minute?" She glanced at him, eyebrows raised in surprise. "Sure. What's on your mind?" "I wanted to catch you up on what we're working on," he said, gauging her reaction. "It's not just about airing grievances. We're building a proposal that can genuinely improve our work environment. We want this to be a collaborative effort, not a threat." "I appreciate you coming to me," Chloe replied, crossing her arms. "But you and I both know that change can be difficult for some people." "That's exactly why we're doing this," Michael said earnestly. "I believe that if we can work together, we can ease concerns about these changes. We're hoping to create an inclusive dialogue rather than impose anything." "There's a lot of sensitivity around this topic, Michael," she cautioned, her tone slightly softer. "Operational changes impact everyone, and some may resist your initiatives. You'll have to show results to gain their trust." "I get that," he acknowledged, nodding. "And that's why it's crucial for us to present our proposals with compelling evidence illustrating the benefits. We're gathering support not only from those directly involved, but from those who truly wish to see our workplace flourish." Chloe regarded him for a moment, and during that silence, Michael saw a flicker of something, perhaps respect for his dedication. "If you need my support in front of management, just know I'm not against what you're doing," she said finally. "But you'll need to provide clarity, and you'll need to show it's built on facts and data." "Thank you, Chloe," he replied, relieved. "I think that could make a significant difference if you're willing to be honest with them. We need all perspectives at the table to forge ahead." As their conversation concluded, Michael felt a renewed sense of determination. Though still wary of Chloe, he realized that when framed collaboratively, even tension could be a catalyst for change. The following week, each of the task forces culminated their efforts in a joint meeting. The atmosphere was electric, and excitement filled the room as representatives from each group presented their findings. From communication improvements to enhanced team-building initiatives, the collective vision became clearer. In that moment, Michael understood something profound. They were building a movement, a culture ready to embrace change and rejuvenate their work environment. They were no longer a collection of individual opinions, but rather a united force intent on shaping their destiny. Yet, as they polished their presentations and honed their pitches, the shadow of upcoming management discussions loomed ever closer. Each team felt the weight of representing not just their own voices, but the cumulative voice of all their colleagues who had begun to believe in their vision. Let's remember, Michael encouraged as they finalized their plans. This proposal isn't just about what we want. It's about what everyone wants to see for our workplace. Let's convey hope. Let's show how this is an opportunity for growth, not just for us, but for the company. As they heard the echo of their shared hopes reverberating in the room, Michael could sense their commitment solidifying. Together, they would rise, ready to face whatever management had to say. The night before the presentation to management, Michael sat in his living room, surrounded by stacks of notes and printouts. He felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. This was a pivotal moment, a true test of their dedication. As he looked at the mountains of research, proposals, and shared stories, he felt the weight of responsibility. He reflected on how far they had come. Once just a scattered group with disparate frustrations, now they were a unified collective advocating for change. It was in the embrace of that journey that he found strength, the shared hope for a better tomorrow. With that thought in mind, he prepared to close his laptop for the night. No matter the challenges they encountered in the meeting the next day, he knew there was a newfound strength in community, a resilient spirit that could not be ignored. They were ready to face whatever came next together. The day of the meeting dawned, casting a bright light that filled the office with a sense of anticipation. Michael arrived early, his heart pounding with a mix of excitement and nerves. He took a few moments at his desk to breathe deeply, reminding himself of the journey they had taken together to reach this point. As colleagues began to trickle in, Michael could see the same blend of enthusiasm and apprehension mirrored in their expressions. Carla approached him, her eyes sparkling. "Are you ready for this? I can't believe how much we've accomplished in such a short time." "Ready or not, here we go." Michael smiled, trying to exude confidence. "No matter what happens today, we've already made our voices heard, and that's a huge step." When it was time for the presentation, the conference room was packed. Members of management filed in, their expressions a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. Michael guided the group as they set up, carefully arranging their materials on the table, ensuring everything was visible. As they stood together at the front, Michael glanced at the faces of his colleagues, all of whom had poured their efforts, hearts, and stories into this moment. He felt a surge of pride for the unity they had fostered. "Thank you all for being here," Michael began, his voice steady. "Today, we're here to share our collective vision for improving our workplace culture. It's something we've crafted with input from teams across the organization, and we believe it has the potential to create a positive and lasting impact for everyone." The room quieted as he introduced the first speaker from the Communication Task Force. Sarah stepped forward, her voice calm yet assertive as she outlined their proposal for enhanced communication structures. As each representative shared their findings, the atmosphere transformed from curiosity to engagement. Management began taking notes, nodding along at key points. Michael felt a spark of hope with every positive reaction from the front. The collaborative nature of their presentation seemed to resonate. What had once felt like a daunting uphill battle now appeared as a shared opportunity. As they reached the final part of their presentation, tension hung in the air. "We know that implementing these changes will require careful consideration and commitment from management," Michael concluded, his gaze sweeping across the room. "But we believe that together, we can create a workplace that not only meets the needs of the employees, but also leads to greater success for the company as a whole. We hope you will consider our proposals with open minds and hearts." A moment of silence followed. Then, One of the senior managers leaned forward, a thoughtful look crossing his face. "Thank you for your comprehensive presentation. It's clear that you all have invested considerable time and thought into this. While we need to review this thoroughly, I can promise that your voices will not go unheard. We appreciate your initiative in coming together for this." Breathing a sigh of relief that echoed through the room, Michael caught the expressions of his colleagues, each one reflecting a mixture of elation and anxiety. The meeting had not produced a resolution, but it signaled a significant step forward. As they exited the conference room, they exchanged excited glances, their spirits lifted. "We did it," Carla exclaimed, throwing her arms around Michael in a quick hug. "I felt like they were actually listening. This could lead to real change." "Absolutely," Michael agreed, a smile breaking across his face. "No matter what happens next, we've shown what's possible when we work together. Let's keep the momentum going." As the team returned to their workstations, conversations buzzed around the office. Colleagues approached them, curiosity and support evident in their expressions. Michael realized that today marked not just a presentation, but the birth of a movement. The air crackled with energy, excitement blending with the promise of potential changes on the horizon. In the days that followed, the ripples from their meeting continued to spread. Management scheduled follow-up discussions, inviting representatives from the employee task forces to engage in deeper conversations. It felt as if they were finally building a bridge that had been long neglected, a bridge rooted in collaboration, trust, and shared vision. Michael often reflected on how the collective journey, one that had ignited passion across departments, had transformed not just the workplace, but the individuals who occupied it. This newfound camaraderie cultivated not just hope, but a sense of belonging, allowing everyone to envision a brighter future together. Now, as the task forces began to refine their proposals further and answer management's questions, his heart swelled with gratitude. They had created something meaningful that reached beyond the confines of their office walls. They had built a community, and for Michael, that was the most rewarding outcome of all. As the follow-up discussions began, the atmosphere in the office shifted significantly. Each day brought a renewed sense of hope and enthusiasm, echoing the ripple effect of their initial presentation. Michael found himself at the center of this energy, leading meetings with management and facilitating conversations among his colleagues. It was exhilarating, yet it also came with the responsibility of carrying everyone's hopes on his shoulders. One afternoon, after a productive session with management, Michael gathered with the employee representatives to share updates. They filled a small conference room, excited chatter filling the air as everyone weighed in on the progress. "I think the proposal for the new communication channels could really change how we collaborate," Carla said, leaning forward with keen interest. "Getting feedback from different levels of management can only enhance the way we share information." "Absolutely," Michael replied, encouraged by her passion. "And the focus groups we plan will ensure that everyone has a voice, especially those who might not feel comfortable speaking up otherwise." As the meeting continued, the momentum seemed unstoppable. They reviewed feedback from management on their proposals, discussing adjustments and enhancements, always striving for greater inclusivity and effectiveness. However, amidst the celebration of progress, Michael could sense an undercurrent of caution from some. Chloe, who had been collaborating closely with them, still carried an air of skepticism that occasionally broke through during discussions. "While it's fantastic what we're doing, we must be aware of the realities of implementation," she reminded them one afternoon. "We need to prepare for resistance from a segment of management that may not share our enthusiasm." Her words hung in the air, and Michael acknowledged the truth in them. "You're right, Chloe. Change can be daunting for many, especially those who have been comfortable with the status quo. We need to establish a clear strategy for addressing concerns and gathering support." As they crafted a more comprehensive plan, the group's resolve solidified. They prepared presentations that not only showcased their proposals, but also included data supporting their potential impact. They anticipated questions and concerns from management, determined to offer solutions instead of simply highlighting problems. The days turned into weeks, and as their proposals took shape, anticipation grew. Finally, the day arrived for the larger meeting where management would respond to their updated ideas. The conference room was packed once again, but this time an air of camaraderie permeated the atmosphere, bolstering their confidence. As the meeting commenced, the head of management addressed the room. We appreciate the hard work and dedication that has gone into these proposals. It's clear that you've brought forth a strong case for a cultural shift within our organization. Today, we would like to discuss not just the proposals themselves, but how we can begin to implement them. Michael felt a surge of exhilaration as feedback flowed from management. They acknowledged the strengths in the proposed changes and expressed genuine interest in moving forward with several initiatives. The room buzzed with energy as discussions unfolded, brainstorming solutions to potential hurdles along the way. Then, as the meeting drew to a close, Michael felt a wave of anxiety. A question lingered at the back of his mind. Would this moment truly lead to lasting change, or was it simply an exercise in optimism? Finally, CEO of the company stood to speak. We recognize that for this transformation to succeed, we need to all be committed from the ground up. We want to create an environment that fosters innovation, communication, and inclusivity. This will take time, but we are ready to begin that journey together with you. Starting next month, we will implement a pilot program focusing on the communication systems you proposed. A collective cheer erupted in the room. Michael felt a surge of pride and validation wash over him. They had done it. Through teamwork, collaboration, and sheer determination, they had incited real change. As they exited the meeting, applause echoed in the halls. Employees approached the task force with gratitude, thanking them for being voices of change. Michael could hardly keep up with the outpouring of congratulations, but he was anchored by a single thought. They had forged a new path together. In the following weeks, they worked tirelessly to roll out the pilot programs, each milestone reinforcing the bonds they had created. As systems began to change and new initiatives took root, the collective sense of empowerment spread like wildfire throughout the organization. One afternoon, standing side by side with Chloe, Carla, and the others in the break room, Michael couldn't help but smile as they shared a laugh. "Can you believe how far we've come?" he asked, pouring himself a cup of coffee. "Not even remotely," Chloe replied with a chuckle. "I was skeptical at first. I thought we might just be shouting into the void, but look at us now." "We created this," Carla added, her eyes bright with enthusiasm. "We took a risk, leaned into discomfort, and emerged stronger for it." Michael grinned, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment that extended beyond their work accomplishments. They hadn't simply altered communication structures. They had forged connections, fostering a culture of trust and collaboration. They had transformed apprehension into action and created a workplace where every employee felt seen, heard, and valued. As they raised their coffee mugs in a toast, a sense of unity enveloped them. This was not just about implementing new policies. It was about cultivating a community that would continue to thrive, evolve, and address future challenges together. The journey had pushed them beyond their comfort zones. But it was precisely this journey that had allowed each of them to discover new strengths and forge lasting relationships. Michael looked around at his colleagues, his friends, and felt a profound sense of gratitude. Together, they had embarked on a transformative path. And as they continued to support one another, Michael knew there was no limit to what they could achieve. The future loomed bright before them, filled with potential and promise, and the spirit of collaboration would carry them forward, creating a workplace that was not only better but truly exceptional.